Okay, Christy, we have this little one who likes to run around the room when it's time for a teacher-led activity. So let me break it down into each of these parts. So right now, when I hear that the team is hypothesizing or wondering, is this child's reason for running because they don't want to go to a preferred activity? So that's going to come back to be a conversation that we have to have. Are we assuming that this is already a point of confrontation, that I want you to come to a teacher-led activity and you don't want to? So let's just start with that. When teachers ignore him, because, sorry, I didn't set this context up. This was a question that also came from podcast 38 about ignoring. And it was like, so we're ignoring the behavior, not the child per se, but you'll see very quickly the child feels ignored. So they said, when teachers ignore him, he will even come over to them and say, why aren't you watching me run? Which I think is hilarious. I know in the moment it's not hilarious at all, but it's saying to the world, do you see me? And remember, if we look at Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson's work around the 4 S's, everyone wants to be seen. And so the kid's coming over like, don't you see me running? But again, we've already got this lens of this is a confrontation. This is a child who doesn't want to come to an unpreferred teacher-led activity. I have to cover the content. You're being difficult. Of course, I'm not watching you run. So this is the story. Then they said, well, how can we connect with the child without reinforcing the running? Because that was podcast 38, which was, are we reinforcing the bad behavior? So I'm going to give you a framework, walk it in pieces and parts. I wish I could tell you this is what you do when a child runs. If I had that kind of magic, I don't know, I'd be on a beach someplace. It's like -12 in Anchorage. So I don't have the magic, but I have some ideas. So here we go. So I'm going to look at my notes so that I go succinctly. So the first question always is, okay, I had to look at my other notes too, because I've got notes from the plane and notes from my notes. How's that for not making good sense? So I want to know, what is the child's arousal state in this moment? So sometimes when they're running, they could be in a different arousal, but we're taking this moment, we're transitioning from, I'm going to probably assume it's child-directed activity or choice time to a teacher-led small group or maybe a whole group. So what do you perceive as their arousal state? We talk about that as being green, red, or blue. So to simplify it even further, is the child hyper-aroused or hypo-aroused? Now, the child may just be accelerating. So this child's running, and so we're going to start seeing things that are probably more of the red train type of behaviors. But remember, that doesn't mean that it's always aggression. It just means that we're hyper-aroused. So if you can catch the kid and they're not too far gone, right? We talk about flipping our lid. Just because our lid is flipped doesn't mean I'm automatically in the red or the blue. It just means I'm accelerating or I'm decelerating to the point where I'm going to become hyper or hypo aroused. If you can put the brakes on, even by giving attention to the running, it's not going to be reinforcing a bad behavior. It's you, through co-regulation, helping the child put the brakes on. So for example, and this may or may not work, but I'm going to give you an example. What do I mean to put the brakes on? So instead of asking the child to not run at all, instead of ignoring that the child's actually running, instead of restating what they're supposed to be doing, I want you to go silent and get close to the child. Now they're running, so that's a little bit hard because I'm not asking you to chase them, but they're probably running a lap in some way. There's only so many places to run in a preschool classroom. So I want you to get in their run, in the lap, and I want you to engage them in a way that they don't quite expect it. So I want you to make it this sort of light, and I want you to say, all right, we have car number 45 going around the lap 3 more times. I'm the pit stop boss, and I say you have 3 more laps, car 45, go. Now you're like, Christy, that's not even close to ignoring. That's like feeding the fire of running. Bear with me. The question was, is the child in the red or the green? It means they're the red or the blue or in the green. I'm going to say the kid's still in the green zone and they're just getting to that point where it's going to spiral out of control. And sometimes just by distracting them, just by saying, I see you, I hear you, you have a need, I'm here to do something about it, can decelerate or put the brakes on for this child. So you say 1 lap. You're like, Christy, you're going to let them run around? Okay, do 2 laps, do 1 lap. If everybody's safe, let them run. But the expectation is on the 3rd lap, you'll come into the pit stop boss and sit in my lap. So maybe you have to have a sign ready, maybe a red, a yellow for slowing down, and then a stop sign. So you're incorporating visual supports. So you're connecting with the child. You're putting the brakes on by giving them these boundaries that breathe. You're incorporating yourself into what they need to be seen. They're going to feel safe and predictable. I get another lap, then I start to maybe do a walk instead of a run. Then you can say, can, car 57 go backwards? It's really hard to run backwards. So now you're already slowing down the child, and then they come in for a pit stop. Well, what is the expectation for coming in for a pit stop? Is it to sit on your lap? Maybe. Versus, okay, you're done. Now come to circle time. So it might be, sit on my lap. Breathe together. Maybe talk about how is your engine running. Do you see where I'm going with that? So hopefully that makes sense, that I'm going to give you more ideas, so don't worry. But the first out of the gate question, when you go, I've got a child running, don't think confrontation. Don't think struggle. Say, how can I connect with you? And if you're not so far gone that you're in the red or the blue, and I'll put things in the show notes about how to help you decide, are you still in the green zone? But basically the green zone saying, okay, I still have some of that beautiful prefrontal cortex stuff. I might be really excited, but I can remember what the rules are. I can recall what I could do differently. I can actually stop, think, and then act. So connection in that example is getting into their play so that they feel seen, put boundaries that breathe by giving limits to it, and then through co-regulation, help bring the body that's escalated from a run to a walk, to a crawl, to a pit stop, to a deep breathing. Okay, now, if that first question is the kid has flipped their lid, and they are in the red or the blue, remember your job changes. You are no longer the teacher. You are the boat captain. So you're going to want to go back to the resources on how do you offer a lifeline. And so I don't want to restate everything. I just want to give you a framework to work from. So question number 1 is, what arousal state is the child in? If they're in the green but amped up, you can still connect with them and still leverage some of that great stuff that's in the prefrontal. If they're already in the blue or the red, you have to change your job, not expect the child to change what they're doing. Okay, question number 2. Oh, I already said that. If they're in the red or the blue, you're the boat captain. Okay, part number 3. If they're in the green, you can stay there. And now I want to ask you, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but I want to ask you, are you ready to teach something? Or are you there to put the brakes on? So you're still in teacher mode. You're still there to co-regulate. You're still there to help the child make the transition. But you need to get really clear on what your expectations are. Sometimes our goal is compliance. If it's feeling like I want you to do what I said because I said it, and in kindergarten this is not going to fly, you're already going to be kind of button heads with the kid. You won't feel like it's okay to do any of these other things. So get really clear. Is your goal to help the child with the learning of recall? So in Des Moines, I worked for a long time with the team there on unpacking what are the stages of recall. And if you have our self-regulation rubric, you can also see what's early recall. So what could you do? Or maybe collaborative problem solving. So again, the kid's in the regulatory state or the arousal state of green. Your job is to teach. And you've decided that you're not there really to put the brakes on. You're really there to teach them something. So it's following directions, impulse control, recall, problem solving. Get really clear on what your what is so that whatever you say as a connection to that child is not about compliance. All too often, we see the child running around. They're not too far gone, but we get into the mode of directions and corrections, and we get into the mode of you will do as a test of wheels, and we both end up in the red or the blue. So I want you to stay the path. You're in the green. It's not too far gone. Get really clear on your expectations, really clear on what you're teaching, and then go in. So when you connect, you're actually teaching something, problem solving, recall, impulse control, delay of gratification. Okay. All right. Now I got to look at my notes again. So use the self-regulation rubric to know which self-regulation skill you're teaching in that moment. And then if you're going to put the brakes on, that's where you could do some things with the boundaries that breathe. That's where you can offer some co-regulation. That's where you can limit the directions and corrections, but also validate to the child that you see them and you saw them run and you're a really fast runner, and then redirect them from there. So it's sort of that acknowledging that you're the running, and now how can I help you make your way over to this teacher-led activity? Okay. Simultaneously, you're getting clear on what does the child need in this moment versus what are your needs, and you don't want to confuse them. So again, this isn't about what do you need them to be doing. I need you to be at circle time. I need you to be doing this teacher-led activity. What are their bodies saying they need? So as Barb would say, get curious. Get curious about why do they run. Now, this is not functional behavioral assessment kind of curious. That's not what I mean. When you think about why is the child going from this activity to this activity and now they're starting to run? I'm not saying look for triggers. I'm looking for understanding. I'm looking to say, what stressors? Is there something unpredictable about where we're going? Is there something unpleasant about what we're going? And you're like, yeah, Christy, it's academics. It's our reading curriculum. They have to get this. Okay. But our job has to be more about how do we help recognize the stressors that the child's under. Maybe it's the time of day. They've used up all their goodness. It has nothing to do with your reading curriculum being good, bad, or otherwise. It has nothing to do with it as a teacher structured activity. It's just 11:20 and their bodies are like, I'm done. I'm going for a run. So if we can get clear about and get curious about what are the stressors, maybe right before we make the transition, we turn the lights off. We turn the music off. We turn all the electronics off. Maybe we don't sing the cleanup song. Maybe we move slowly. All of these things will reduce the stressors, and then the child won't say to their body, the child's body won't say, I'm unsafe. It'll be like, oh, I can do this. This is manageable. So you really want to think about which zone are they in due to regulation? Are you the boat captain or are you the teacher? If you're the teacher, are you there going to put the brakes on through co-regulation, or are you teaching an actual skill, which is probably from the self-regulation rubric? Got to think about what are their needs in this moment. Why is their body saying, let's go for a run? Do they need your attention? Do they need things to slow down? Do they need more predictability? Do they need less talking? Do they need assurances? It could be a whole bunch of things. So it's not so much that this is about throwing a lifeline as it is zooming in on what are their needs. Okay. Then I said I'd give you 5 ideas of what to do when it is the storm. So you're like, this is all fine. That's fine, Christy. It's not that situation. This kid is running around, ripping stuff off of the walls. And then if I don't give them, look at them, they're running over to me and poking me and saying, did you see me running? Did you see me running? And they have that crazy look in their eye. Okay. That's right. Now we're like all amped up. Now we're all anxious. Now we're all nervous. So 5 things. 1, always go quiet. So I'm going to ask you to go near the child, but the reason I'm asking you to go quiet is because I'm asking you to go near the child. So you're going to get by the child wherever they are. Again, if they're running in their lap, get somewhere in the lap itself. Not that you're barricading them or disrupting it. You're just going to be in their space versus yelling from across the room or directing them from while you're cleaning up another area of the room. So go quiet. You may use visuals at this point. So if you want to have the child come to do an activity, maybe they weren't clear about what they needed to do. And if they actually sit on a carpet square, you can have a picture of that square or of them sitting in a chair. If it's going to be something that's at a small group area with manipulatives, you might actually have the materials that you're going to use at the next activity just to show them. You're not directing or correcting. You're just creating curiosity. So they run by and they see you holding something. They might get disrupted and go, huh, What does she have there? You might even start playing with it again, but going silent. I don't want a lot of talking. I don't want to be like, well, we're all going to be having fun over here with the farm animals. And I know how much you love the farm animals. No talking. Get connected, but you want them to be curious about you. So you have to do something interesting. And things that are interesting aren't directions and corrections. So go quiet and get near. If you're going to talk or you're going to do something that's got some sort of verbalization to it, attend to their emotions. So in this instance, you might say, I wonder if you're feeling really excited. That's it. I wonder if you're feeling kind of confused. I'm feeling if your body doesn't know what it's doing. Like you can just start having a little bit of a detective session, but not a lot of talk. Not like, I wonder if you feel sad today, because sometimes you feel sad when we have to clean up our toys and you love playing in the block area. The go quiet is still at play, but I'm connecting with the child saying, I'm really wondering about you. I wish I could understand what was going on for you right now. Now, you're like, Christy, I got 23 other kids that are waiting for me. Really, they're not. I know you like to think they're waiting for you, but they're 23 kids who are on the green zone ready to learn. Hopefully you've got exciting materials. Maybe there's another adult in the room that can get things started. Maybe there's a child in the classroom that can teach circle better than you. This is your moment to be in the helping with the child. These are also variations of lifelines because you're probably the boat captain when it's the middle of the storm. But this is these nuances. So attend to their emotions, validate anything you can do to restate. If they're frustrated about something, if they're mad because Olivia took my toy, so maybe Olivia took my favorite toy right before you asked me to clean up and I just can't get over that. Olivia took your toy. That's so frustrating. So anything again that says, I see you, you're safe, I'm here to soothe and form a secure attachment. Anything you can do like that will help the nervous system go, I feel good. I'm ready. I can do other things. Compassion and empathy. Compassion and empathy goes so far. Just to say, maybe you just felt like going for a run. You felt like your body had a lot of wiggles in it. Just restating things for kids. They can notice it and go, no, that's not what it was. Or they can go, yeah, that's what I was feeling. And now all of a sudden they feel heard. Fourth thing, you can try distractions. My team in Cleveland Heights the other day had beautiful examples of these. Just do something unexpected. Just try not to be over the top, especially if a child's hyper aroused, but you want to do something that they don't expect. I said to the team today, you've got to build trust with this child that you are not the directions and corrections person. So if their memory of you is you make them clean up, their memory of you is you make them come to this teacher-led activity, their memory of you is you're going to ask you what all these letters are and you don't know, that can cause a lot of disruption. So you've got to build trust with the child that there are other things you do with them. You are there to see them, to soothe them, to make sure they're safe, and to form secure attachments. And sometimes just distracting them by saying, hey, can you touch your head while you run? I know you're like, Christy, you're fueling the fire about running. They're running already. So can you do something that distracts them where they have to just sort of for a half a second forget about running and see, can I pat my head while I do that? And then, like I said earlier, can you go backwards? Can you crawl? That's an unexpected question that could just distract them. They're 4, they're 5. They are so easily distracted that you're not really reinforcing the running at that moment. You're really just kind of getting a wedge and like disrupting the routine or the neural pathway. You can also... I think my 5th one. So the first one was go quiet and get near, connect in some way. Second one was attend to the child's emotion or regulatory state. They might be confused or excited. Make sure you express compassion and empathy. Reduce stressors and input. So again, the lack of talking, but also around the room. Don't be also yelling to those kids or inviting these. Just be present. Get everybody to a signal to turn the lights off, to be a little bit more quiet. Everybody use their inside voice. See how I'm not yelling at you anymore? Feels a little bit better. Distract. Do something unexpected. And then the last one was something I mentioned at the very beginning. Have boundaries that breathe. So have an expectation, but allow there to be flexibility. So it's really hard to go from running to sitting crisscross applesauce. But I can go from running to 3 more laps, to 2 more laps, to 1 more lap. I can certainly go from running to walking to crawling to sitting in the pit stop boss's lap. That's a beautiful, let me bring you down slowly, still processing whatever was that emotion that was behind it. So last part. Woo, thanks for sticking with me, guys. And I know it's super late where some of you all are. I'm in Anchorage, so it's still early for me. So we're talking about what to do when a child's running. How do you connect versus ignore without reinforcing? The last part. After you know if they were in the green, red, or blue, so you know which person to be, teacher or boat captain. If you're the teacher, you got your bag of tricks. Am I putting the brakes on? Am I teaching you a self-regulation skill? If I'm the boat captain, how do I bring you back into the green? After the storm, I think we don't give enough attention to this, because I think when people feel like we're giving attention to something we should ignore and that we're worried that we're reinforcing bad behavior, it's because we haven't talked about what am I going to do after the child is back into the green. After the child is back into a place where they can learn and hear and remember and connect the dots, there can be consequences. There can be discussions about what is the right thing to do and the things that we don't want you to do. And we don't always talk about what happens after I get a child back into the green. So I'm going to tell you things that you need to do after the storm, things to the environment, and things for the child. That's a lot of things, I know. Okay, so after the storm, for you, you need to reflect on, did you reframe this situation as a battle or as a time to be curious about what stressors are at play and what needs are unmet? If you found that you were feeling at a battle, then we still need to reframe more. Stress behavior over misbehavior. So I want you to reflect on, how did you feel in that situation? Did you feel like you were giving in? Did you feel like you were being manipulated? Did you feel like you were being played? If that's your feeling, we might still have some residual kind of misbehavior perceptions, and we don't see this child really as having stress behavior. Were you unclear about your job, or did your job as a teacher and as a boat captain shift really quickly? So it wasn't like, oh, I'm just the teacher and I can be that for 20 minutes. But within breaths of the child, you went from offering Lifeline to teaching, to back to offering Lifeline, back to teaching. And were you feeling good about being able to shift between those two jobs? Do you have the right developmental expectations? So when you think about what was the goal, what was I teaching in this moment? Were they things that even 4-year-olds in the green zone are developmentally able to do? Are you really clear on how self-regulation unfolds in human development? And do you have a strong relationship with this child? If it went to hell in a handbasket, it could be, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, that this child does not see you as someone that is safe, and by that I just mean that you're going to make them do things they don't like to. Safety, that they feel seen, that they feel soothed, and they have a secure attachment with you. So I really want you to go and reflect back and say, was I attuned to them to know enough? So that's what your work is after the storm. I know kids are never gone. So when do you do this? In the 2 seconds you have to commute home, or before you have your own kids and dogs and partners to attend to. But at some point you need to stop and reflect so that you can think about how to handle it the next time. The environment. The environment is the third teacher. So teachers are good and bad. So how did the third teacher help or hinder this situation? So a big thing is there a way that my room is organized that creates a beautiful lap, a beautiful runway for running? So is there something we can do structurally in the environment to cut down on being able to run or catch speed? Have I allowed kids to stay in play long enough? You're like, well, we have centers, but we have to rotate through all of the centers. So you really only get to play at a center 10 or 15 minutes. Or this child got pulled out for speech therapy for most of the time of center. By the time they come back in, they had 10 minutes. Well, we all know that you need 45, 60, 90 minutes of sustained, engaged interaction with materials, people, and things before you're like really in it. So maybe kids aren't getting enough time in play. Are they hungry? Are they lonely? Are they tired? So think about what about in the environment, in the schedule, is causing children to maybe feel hungry. Maybe we are giving everybody snack at a time that works for the school district, but doesn't work for this child who went to childcare and then came to preschool or had a 2-hour bus ride. Really be thinking about their those things as well. Is there anything that a peer can do to support the child during the transition so that it doesn't become a time where they feel like they need to run? What else? Can you reduce stressors? So if you can get a handle on what stressors are making the child become hyper aroused, what can you do? And maybe it's the cleanup song, the directions and the corrections, and the expectations that everything gets put away exactly where it goes is just too much. So maybe this child doesn't actually even help clean up. Maybe this child just makes their way over to the teacher-led activity and has a quiet minute with the teacher to think about what's the next activity. Where do you want to sit? Get in your chair, get your materials out, kind of get your space organized before you're bombarded with 15 other kids. So it's not about equality where everybody has to do their share. It's about equity, giving every child the support they need. So looking at the environment. And last thing, child. So what can we do to look at the child? What are their needs in this situation? What are the stressors that are causing their body to become hyper or hypo aroused? And the 4 S's. Are they safe? Do they feel seen? Do they feel soothed? And do they have a secure attachment? When you do all of that, the last part of it, even if you look at Stuart Shanker's work, is that you need to restore the body. So once I've been all amped up and I've been running around, even though you see me as the pit boss or whatever they're called, pit stop boss, and I start to come down, somebody's got to restore my energy. Somebody's got to restore and replenish. Somebody's got to help me stay in the green zone. So we don't want to think of this as one and done. You're no longer running, so you're good. I might go all the way to the blue. So how do I help restore your body? How do I help you feel joy in calm without pushing you right back? Okay. So that was a really long story to such a beautiful question from Colorado about what do we do when I don't want to ignore the child, but I don't want to reinforce the running. And so if you're like, this is complicated, this is hard. Yeah, sorry, it's getting dark. It's Alaska. There's not much more sunlight, and I don't know where my lights are here in my hotel room. So sorry. That's telling me I need to let you all go. I will type up some more things and put links and spell out so you don't have to like listen back to this if there was something that you heard that you want to take away with you. But the big takeaways are, do you know which arousal state the child is in? Green, red, or blue? Red or blue, you have a different job. Green, you're the teacher. Get really clear on your goals. Get really clear on how you can put the brakes on for the child. Make sure you have got good developmentally appropriate expectations. If you're the boat captain, your job is to bring the child back onto the boat. So how do you offer a lifeline? So that going calm, attending to emotion, reducing stressors, distracting the child, and boundaries that breathe are all examples of lifelines. Which one will be a lifeline for that child? I don't know. So it's only through relationships and attuned interactions that you will know which lifeline is needed at that moment. And then after the storm has passed, you still have a bit of work to do. Some reflection to make sure you're reframing the situation of the child running as stress behavior, not misbehavior. You're looking at the environment, both physical and emotional, of how it can be a good third teacher, and then you're looking to the child about how do you restore their system and how do you ensure that you have secure attachments.